113th meeting of the ECCB. Thanks for connecting with us to view our live feed. We're standing by to bring you the presentation of the Communiqué of the 113th meeting of the ECCB Monetary Council, which was held this morning. The Honorable Dr. Irving McIntyre, Chairman of the Monetary Council, will present the official communiqué. During the meeting, the Council discussed the Big Push initiative and received updates on the implementation of the FAST payment system and the CARICOM's payment and settlement system. At the end of each meeting, the Council issues a communiqué, an official summary of discussions, decisions, and the way forward. For businesses, investors, and citizens, the communiqué provides insight into the decisions shaping the future of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. Stay with ECCB Connects for live coverage of the presentation of the Monetary Council communiqué. Thanks for connecting with us to view.
Greetings and good afternoon to wherever you are in our currency union and around the world. Welcome to the media conference of the Monetary Council of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. We're very pleased that you could join us on this Friday afternoon. My name is Timothy Antoine, Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. My name is Timothy Antoine, Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, and I'm very pleased to have with me our Chairman of the Monetary Council, the Honorable Dr. Irving McIntyre, Minister for Finance for Dominica, and as of last evening, Chairman of the Monetary Council. Dr. McIntyre, our Chairman, will now present the communiqué of our meeting held earlier today.
Thank you very much, Governor. A pleasant good afternoon to all media houses who are on with us this afternoon. The Monetary Council of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank convenes its 113th meeting on the 10th of July 2026 at the InterContinental Dominica Cabrits Resort, under the chairmanship of, that's me, Dr. Irving McIntyre, Minister for Finance, Commonwealth of Dominica. Building on 5 decades of monetary stability, the Monetary Council reaffirmed its commitment to safeguarding the EC dollar while advancing policies that strengthen resilience, competitiveness, and shared prosperity across the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. The Monetary Council met against a backdrop of heightened global uncertainty as energy-related supply shocks continued to fuel inflationary pressures and moderate global growth. Despite these challenges, the ECCU's financial system remained resilient, while the EC dollar continues to provide a strong and stable anchor for the economies of the ECCU. In this environment, the Council focused on safeguarding monetary and financial stability and supporting stronger and more resilient growth, in keeping with the ECCB's strategic plan of 2026 to 2031 titled The Big Push, Collective Action for Shared Prosperity in the ECCU. The Council reaffirmed that sound policies and coordinated regional action are essential to cushioning external shocks and supporting growth across the ECCU. The meeting also coincided with the 50th anniversary of the EC dollar's fixed exchange rate of EC $2.70 to US $1, a milestone that underscores 5 decades of monetary stability, confidence, and regional cooperation. The Council acknowledged the vision and stewardship of successive monetary councils, boards of directors, governors, member governments, and the people of the Eastern Caribbean, whose collective commitment to prudent monetary and fiscal policies has sustained one of the world's longest-standing and most successful fixed exchange rate arrangements. The Council renewed the Governor's report on monetary, credit, and financial conditions in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union titled From Stability to Resilience, the Next Chapter for the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. The Council reaffirmed that the foundation of the ECCB's monetary policy is the maintenance of the EC dollar's fixed exchange rate against the United States dollar. This policy supports monetary stability and helps create the conditions for sustainable economic growth and rising living standards across the ECCU. The strength of the EC dollar continues to be reflected in the reserve backing ratio of 97.6% and foreign reserves of EC 5.9 billion. Under the ECCB agreement, the bank is required to maintain external reserves equal to at least 60% of currency in circulation and other demand liabilities. The current reserve backing ratio of 97.6% significantly exceeds these statutory requirements, reinforcing confidence in the EC dollar and its fixed exchange rate. The Council recognized that the stability of the EC dollar and the maintenance of its fixed exchange rate requires more than strong reserve holdings. The credibility of the peg is underpinned by a broader policy framework that promotes competitiveness, fiscal and debt sustainability, and financial system stability. Together, these policy safeguards foreign exchange reserve, preserve confidence in the EC dollar, and support the long-term sustainability of the fixed exchange rate. Accordingly, the Monetary Council agreed to maintain the minimum savings rate at 2% and maintain the discount rate at 3% in the short term and 4.5% in the long term. The Council reaffirmed its unwavering commitment to preserving the fixed exchange rate, recognizing it as the cornerstone of monetary stability, investor confidence, and sustainable economic development across the currency union. The Council observed that global uncertainty continues to weigh on the economic outlook. Volatility in oil prices, trade uncertainties, and geopolitical conflicts pose significant risk to growth. Consequently, the ECCU's growth outlook is tilted towards the downside, and external conditions could weaken tourism demand and slow economic growth. The Council welcomed continued investment in strategic development projects and renewable energy to strengthen economic resilience and support sustainable development. It reaffirmed that energy resilience is central to accelerating economic expansion and underscored the need to expedite the operationalization of the Caribbean Resilient Renewable Energy Infrastructure Investment Facility, RIF. Within the Eastern Caribbean Partial Credit Guarantee Corporation, as the region cannot afford further delays if it is to achieve greater energy security, lower electricity costs, and strong long-term competitiveness. The Council further agreed that the ECCU must accelerate both the pace and scale of collective action to advance the big push. Recognizing the strategic importance of food and nutrition security to the big push, the Monetary Council approved an additional grant of 25 million EC dollars to support member governments' ongoing efforts in this strategic priority area. This builds on the EC 25 million grant approved in February of 2025 and underscores the Council's continued commitment to advancing the big push by enhancing food and nutrition security, reducing import dependence, and strengthening the resilience of Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. The Council noted that the ECCU banking sector continues to demonstrate resilience, supported by strong liquidity, higher capital adequacy, and low non-performing loans. The Council received an update on the implementation of the ECCU's Credit Bureau. To date, 25 of the 30 licensed financial institutions, which is 83%, and 13 of the 49 credit unions, which is 27%, have been onboarded. The Council reaffirmed that full participation is essential to the Credit Bureau's effectiveness and the provision of comprehensive, reliable credit information. The Council also received an update on preparation for the establishment of the Office of Financial Conduct, which is scheduled to commence operations in September 2026. The stakeholder consultations with the Bankers Association and licensed financial institutions are continuing ahead of the launch. The Council welcomed continued progress in advancing financial inclusion across the ECCU. It noted that the ECCU First Step Savings Account is expanding access to a simple, affordable banking services for first-time account holders and other eligible individuals, with at least 17 licensed financial institutions offering the account. The Council also received updates on the CARICOM Payments and Settlement System, CAPS, pilot, and the Fast Payment System, two flagship initiatives under the Big Push. CAPS will facilitate instant cross-border payments in local currencies, reducing transaction costs and reliance on correspondent banking. The Fast Payment System will enable real-time, 24/7 electronic payments across the ECCU. Together, these initiatives will strengthen regional financial integration, improve payment efficiency, and enhance financial inclusion. The Council also reaffirmed the importance of retail bond issuance in broadening access to investment opportunities for citizens and advancing the strategic priority of financial inclusion and wealth creation under the Big Push. The Monetary Council received an update on the establishment of the Eastern Caribbean Citizenship by Investment Regulatory Authority, ECCB, and noted that the authority remains on track for launch in September 2026. The Council reaffirmed its commitment to the timely operationalization of ECCIRA as a critical pillar of the region's effort to strengthen governance, transparency, integrity, and regulatory oversight of citizenship by investment programs. The Council further underscored the importance of continued constructive engagement with international partners to ensure that the region's program continues to meet the highest international standards and sustain strong economic and diplomatic ties that are vital to the economies of the Eastern Caribbean Union. The Council also acknowledged the fiscal measures implemented by member governments to help cushion the impact of higher cost of living on households and businesses. It noted that maintaining fiscal sustainability requires ECCU governments to strengthen sustainable domestic revenue mobilization while managing expenditure growth responsibly. The Council further noted that where ECCU governments have implemented measures to cushion vulnerable households from adverse price shocks, they should be targeted and fiscally sustainable. It emphasized that such measures should include a clear sunset clause so that they remain temporary and are subject to regular review. The Council welcomed the continued strong performance of the tourism sector despite heightened global uncertainty. Total visitor arrivals increased by 9% from 2.3 million in the first quarter of 2025 to 2.5 million in the first quarter of 2026. Visitor spending also increased by 4% from EC 2.7 billion to EC 2.8 billion over the same period, reflecting sustained demand for the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union as a destination. The Council noted, however, that suboptimal air connectivity arrangements and high transportation costs continue to constrain intra-regional travel. It therefore welcomed continued discussions on the establishment of a regional airline, OECS Air, recognizing that improved connectivity is essential for trade, tourism, and labor mobility. The Council reaffirmed that sustained prosperity will require stronger productivity, deep regional integration, improved connectivity, affordable energy, greater private investment, and continued policy coordination across the currency union. The Council agreed that the 114th meeting of the Monetary Council will be held via video conference from the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank headquarters in St. Kitts and Nevis on Friday, 30th October 2026. participation, the following council members participate in the meeting. Dr. Irvin McIntyre, that's me as the chairman. Honorable Cora Richardson Hodge, Premier and Minister for Finance of Anguilla. Honorable Gaston Brown, Prime Minister and Minister for Finance for Antigua and Barbuda. Honorable Dennis Cornwall, Minister for Finance, Grenada, that was virtual participation. Honorable Ruben Meade, Premier and Minister for Finance of Montserrat. Honorable Dr. Terence Drew, Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, St. Christopher and Nevis. Honorable Philip Japia, Prime Minister and Minister for Finance for St. Lucia. The Honorable Godwin Friday, Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The Council reaffirmed that the stability achieved over the past 5 decades provides a strong platform from which the ECCU can pursue faster, more inclusive, and more resilient economic growth through collective regional action. It expressed confidence that through sound policies, strong institutions, and close regional collaboration, the currency union is well positioned to navigate global uncertainties while advancing shared prosperity for the people of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. I thank you.
And there we have it, the communique from our chairman, Dr. McIntyre. And now we are pleased to invite members of the media who have taken the time to join us to field any questions that you may have. So members of the media, we thank you for joining us today for a media conference, and we now open to you for any questions that you may have. So both those who are in the room and those who are online, I want to recognize Mr. Buford, Garfield Buford from Antigua and Barbuda Broadcasting Service. Mr. Buford, good afternoon and over to you. We're not hearing you yet, you're muted. Still not hearing you?
Oh, sorry.
Right, we're hearing you now.
Okay. 1 second, please. 1 second. Okay, hearing me now?
Yes, we are.
Able to hear now?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Thanks. Right. So good afternoon again to you, Governor, and to the Chairman of the Monetary Council for everything. Question from me. Prime Minister Brown, in his presentation as outgoing Chairman of the Monetary Council yesterday, he indicated that the bank must develop a suite of creative credit and the securities instruments using a small portion of the reserves of the bank. He says possibly this could be 5 to 7%. It's not the first time the Prime Minister has mentioned this. He's mentioned this perhaps 1 or 2 years ago at least. He said it is pointless bragging about 98% in reserves as a backing ratio when the region needs money for development. And he also said you don't need 98%, it's just giving you bragging rights at a time when the money needed for development. Was this discussed in terms of the possibility of using any of the reserves of the bank to catalyze projects in the areas, for example, of energy security and so on? And if so, what was the decision on this? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. Yes, it was discussed. As you rightly said, it came up yesterday at the opening ceremony, and it was discussed in length this morning at our meeting. As to the final figures that would be put towards the different areas of the big push, this is what we need to finalize. But yes, it was discussed. We did recognize that what Prime Minister Brown mentioned yesterday, and that's why we're just trying to get the final figures as to how much of this can be put to the different areas, the different sectors under the Big Push program. Now, as you know, our Big Push program, which deals with food and nutrition security, it also deals with our connectivity, and it also deals with the energy part, and we also deals with the digital part. They actually said 7 pillars under this. But as to where we put this amount from the reserve that you did mention, it most likely might be dealing with connectivity, because we're already, as in my statement, I said we're already addressing the food and nutritional security with the 25 million that we did approve this morning. But yes, it's on the card. We're just working on the final details as to how much of this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. May I ask for one more? I don't want to impose on my colleague, Andre, who I think was on earlier. There's another recommendation that has been made for unclaimed deposits across the ECCU, unclaimed bank deposits, to be used as possible seed funding for OECS Air. Prime Minister Brown and other colleagues. This matter was also discussed at the OECS Authority recently as well. And he took the conversation to the ECCU Monetary Council, ECCB Monetary Council as well. Was that discussed to use unclaimed deposits, which amounts to perhaps tens of millions of US dollars, to provide seed funding for OECS Air, if that was...
So thank you, Mr. Buford. At the invitation of the chairman, I will respond as follows. That matter is under discussion. The government will soon be taking to Parliament the amendment to the Banking Act to allow us to access, for the big push, these unclaimed deposits, as you put it. The Act refers to abandoned bank property. Most of us refer to it as dormant accounts. So there is around 143 million EC dollars, which is probably about 55 million US dollars across the currency union, that funds are at the central bank. And so legally, there is going to be an amendment to the Banking Act very soon. You would recall, of course, the Prime Minister Brown made the point last evening that with this change, depositors remain fully protected. And in fact, they are even in a better position insofar as their claim, because whereas under the current arrangements, that is only for 30 years. After 30 years, their claim is extinguished. Under the amendment, their claim is in perpetuity, means forever. So as long as they can bring their bona fide, their requisite documents, they can claim their deposits. The use of those deposits, there's a discussion that is going on there. And we certainly did discuss OECS Air, and there are further discussions of a technical nature to be done, and further reports to be sent to our heads before we make some further determination on this matter. But certainly there has been a discussion about the use of those resources, and given the issue with connectivity, and given the high priority of connectivity and logistics under the big push, I think there is a growing consensus for us to take some initiative in respect of this area. But the details are still to be finalized, and that is all I can offer at this juncture.
Thank you, Governor. Appreciate it. I'll yield to other.
So as usual, identify yourself and go ahead with the question, please.
Good afternoon. General Jacob, Government Information Service, GIS. Dr. Irvin McIntyre, congratulations on your appointment as the chairman of the Eastern Caribbean Monetary Council. What does this appointment mean for us in Dominica? Because you're Dominican, what does it mean for us? How significant is it for you and for us?
Well, it comes at a very critical time, a challenging time in our economic development as a country and for the entire OECS region, entire currency union. So coming in at this time with all these challenges, we know very well what's going on in the world, the geopolitics of the world, and in terms of the wars that are going on, how they affect us, how they affect the value chain, how they affect freight, the cost of living that all our countries, all our citizens are faced with. So this is really a critical time, and it's a challenging time. However, it provides an opportunity, and the opportunity that comes, this is why this session of this meeting of the Currency Union and Monetary Council, and that is where the big push becomes so important, because this is one of the areas, this is actually the main thing that's going to help us to cushion the effect on all the citizens of the region and to drive our economic development. So it is something big for Dominica, but it's more than Dominica, it's more about the whole currency union for all the OECS countries. So it means a lot for Dominica, but it's bigger than that. It means a lot for the entire OECS region. Given the situation that the world is in today, which obviously affects us. So we are not isolated from all the events going on in the world. It does affect us. It does affect our whole development and all our different agenda programs that we have. So it's a very critical time, and it means a lot for Dominica and for the entire currency union.
The big push seems to be the key theme of this meeting, of this 113th meeting. How can Dominica, as quote unquote one of the food baskets, the main food baskets of the OCS, assist in food security?
Well, you see, under the big push, we have different pillars. So food and nutrition security is one of the main pillars under the big push. This we have to organize besides the part of connectivity, besides the part of digitalization, besides the part of energy and all the other social implications. But Dominica has done its best in that regard. This is why we've invested that much in our agricultural sector. Yes, we invested more than $100 billion into our agricultural sector, whether it's from our fish landing sites, whether it's from our fish boats, whether it's from our ruminant program, and also the other things that we've invested in, such as the abattoir, which costs in excess of $7 million, in other things like the agricultural and science building in the north, which has a tissue culture lab, which has a seed bank. So there are so many things that we're doing within the agricultural sector to ensure our food and nutrition security. But as I say, it's for the entire region, for the entire currency union, all the citizens, 650,000 people within our currency union. And this is just one example of one country, but however, all the other islands are doing their fair share. St. Vincent also has a tissue culture lab, and St. Kitts is also having a greenhouse farm. So there are many things being done within all the different regions, all the different islands of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union to address food and nutrition security. It's top on our agenda. If you ask me, it's in the top two, and we're not taking it lightly, and we're addressing it, we're facing it head on.
Finally, connectivity is important for us in growing our economy by bringing more tourists, more visitors to our shores, not only into Dominica, but other OECS countries, and thus increasing economic growth. Our international airport now being built, how significant is that for us in overall OECS, Dominica OECS connectivity?
Well, tourism is essential for all our members of the currency union. And, but to go specifically to your question as to our international airport, it will address a major issue for us, which is connectivity. We already have issues within the currency union in terms of connectivity, but even from outside the region, for people to get in. So this is what's really going to boost us in terms of our tourism, so we can get more visitors. And obviously, when we get more visitors, everyone will be impacted, whether it's the taxi drivers, whether it's the hotels, whether it's the cleaners, whether it's all the different, the agricultural produce to feed these. It's a web. It's an ecosystem that has to support the increase of visitors, whether it's in the hundreds, the thousands that will come because of the international airport, but it translates and it spreads along so many different industries. We have to provide food for these visitors. We have to have rooms for these visitors. We need taxis for these visitors, transportation, we need restaurants, we need entertainers. So it's an entire web of all the support system. So the international body, it might trigger it, it will trigger it off, but it brings economic development for all the other sectors, not just for the tourism industry. It's beyond just tourists coming to Dominica. It's what it provides for the other sectors to get to develop as well.
Governor Timothy, I've been listening to the presentations from yesterday to now. It seems to me that there is need for dissemination of pertinent information to our rural citizens all over the OECS in their assisting us, I say us, the monetary, the central bank and other governance in moving the OECS forward. What strategy have you decided on, or is there any strategies that can be taken to inform citizens, rural citizens, local citizens, OECS citizens about the big push and how they can be part of that big program?
Yes, absolutely more is required, and I will certainly say in Dominica and St. Lucia, more Creole is required. Sakitan parle lot. That is to say, we have to get the word out in a language that people understand and are comfortable with. And so that is something we are already committed to doing. We do have some Creole speakers in the bank from St. Lucia and Dominica, but we also are prepared to work with partners in those countries who speak Creole. We think that's very important. A few months ago, we did a message for Helen's daughters, and our chief director, who is St. Lucian and speaks very good Creole, she delivered the message in Creole, I delivered it in English. So I think more of that has to be done. I've also suggested that our youth parliaments could be used to debate the big push and to create a bigger discussion amongst our youth, because the honest truth, this is about them. They are our future, and of course that future is now. We have to make sure that they are fully invested in the big push. And so it is not just for a discussion at the level of our leaders or the central bank. We have to make sure all of society understands why this is important and we buy in. We have to understand that if the central bank reduces the backing to put some money into the big push, why are we doing it? And that there's not a problem, it's a deliberate decision to ensure that we could accelerate implementation of the big push. The big push is to make the quality of life better for everybody. When you ask me what is the essence of the big push, it's to make the life of our people better, where they not only strive, but thrive. That means more opportunities, more jobs, higher incomes, more prosperity. So that's a message everybody needs to hear. So we are looking for partners to conclude, which can work with the central bank to get the word out. So I'm glad you raised that, because that is very, very important in this enterprise.
Oui. Est-ce que vous avez nous ça en créole, comme ça pour mon ces villages là en Saint-Lucie spécialement et puis Dominique comprendre ça big push là, pour pousser à compte.
So I fully agree with you. I got the gist of what you're saying. I don't know if Dr. Mack wants to answer. But certainly, I mean, so I don't know if you want to comment in Creole or you want to speak directly to his question. But you want to say anything on it?
No, that's okay. But,
yeah, go ahead.
Jenna, we do get your point. And in terms of how do we include the rural population as part of the big push, and as Governor clearly stated that it would be nice that whatever we're discussing here, so Jen, who happens to be one of our Creole experts on the local radio station.
Respect.
So we will definitely organize so that we can disseminate the information of the big push to the entire rural population, so to speak, because whether it's from a fishing point of view, agricultural point of view, they all have a part to play into it. And quite a bit of the tourism activities, our community tourism programs, so they are also featured in all of these big push programs. So yes, we will definitely be in touch with you, and then we'll organize to have a Creole program to explain the big push to the entire population of the country.
The next meeting, the 114th meeting of the Monetary Council, will be held in St. Kitts later this year. It is on next year. Later
October.
This year. In October. In October. Why via Zoom?
Well, Chairman, if I may answer the question, yes, we are 8 countries. You heard what we just said? Connectivity is not easy. So we have a tradition where the first 2 meetings, February and July, are in person, and the October meeting is by a video conference. So that's what we do. It's a little easier to get our heads to meet without having to travel, and it's efficient. And I will tell you, long before the pandemic, we do a lot of our meetings. Mrs. Edwards and I, who served on the board for many years, will tell you that we did many meetings by Zoom. We travel occasionally. Mrs. Dennis Edwards, who now sits on the board as financial secretary, will tell you we do some of our meetings, a lot of our meetings via virtual. So it is an efficient way, and it helps when you already know the colleagues to be able to have the meetings. If you're meeting somebody for the first time, it's probably not the ideal way. But where we know each other, it works pretty well for us to get through with the business. So October is always virtual, but February and July are in person. Chairman, I see we have a hand online, so could we have that person come in, identify yourself? So unmute and go right ahead, please. Is this Mr. Huey? Yes, Mr. Huey, Andre Huey, St. Kitts and Nevis, come in, go right ahead, please.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
We're hearing you now, yes.
Okay, excellent. Good afternoon, Andre Huey, Television Caribbean, St. Kitts and Nevis. Governor, I don't know if this question was asked earlier because I had to exit the Zoom chat. However, I guess you probably are aware of reports of the European Commission basically issuing an ultimatum to CDI countries in the Eastern Caribbean to discontinue their program by the year 2028. Considering that the central bank has been very instrumental in helping these countries reform its program and to have a unified industry right across the board. Does this not, if this is indeed the case, nullify the work of the central bank in trying to get these countries to comply with the international standards as required by the EU and the United States? And if these countries indeed have to close their programs, what other viable alternatives do you see or does the bank see for these countries to pursue to replace the revenue that will be lost from closing the CBI?
You want me to respond? Okay, thank you, Chairman. So thank you, Mr. Huey, for the question. I'll start with the last one. The big push is exactly about economic diversification, about building resilience. And we are fully committed to doing that. If you look at the strategic plan of our central bank, which we launched at the end of March, you see big push clearly in there. In fact, the name of the plan is The Big Push, Collective Action for Shared Prosperity in the ECCU, Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. The things that we've been speaking about in this media conference that the chairman referred to, food and nutrition security, energy resilience, connectivity, trade, logistics, are part of the big push, digital transformation. We would like to work with the European Union and international partners to help our region move forward with our economic diversification program that is including our renewables transition. It must be lucidly clear to anyone who is looking at this that we do need money and we need time. The big push cannot be done overnight. And in fact, the question that undergirds the big push is what will it take to double the size of our economies over the next decade? So this is not a short-term response. And therefore, again, I make the point, all of our countries recognize the need for economic diversification. All of our countries are taking steps. In the case of St. Kitts and Nevis, where you're based and where our central bank is based, the geothermal project is about to commence in terms of drilling, and that's a very important project. It has the potential down the road to make St. Kitts and Nevis an energy exporter. That's very different from the situation now, where St. Kitts and Nevis is an oil importer. And obviously, we are dealing with the vagaries of the market. So it is important for us to be given time, space, and financing, that is the wherewithal to do this economic transition. To your first question about whether or not our work is in vain, we do the work at the request of our member countries, and we are committed to continuing to do that work. So in terms of setting up the Eastern Caribbean Citizenship by Investment Regulatory Authority, ECCB, we are committed to completing that work as we have been doing. It is our hope that our programs will be given the appropriate respect and support to allow them to provide critical resources for the sustenance of our nations, whether that is in climate resilience, whether that is in energy, whether that is in social safety nets. So what we would like to see is a deepened and informed engagement with our international partners about these programs, having regard to the fact that we have had very strong dialogue with the US and the United Kingdom and the European Commission over the last 2-3 years in particular, as we went about further strengthening our programs, including the landmark passage of the law that establishes the Eastern Caribbean Citizenship by Investment Regulatory Authority. We've taken great steps at significant cost, shown our commitment, and what we would like is for further and informed dialogue to working with our international partners to allow us to secure our livelihoods. But as I said with the big push, our economic diversification strategy, we need understanding, we need time, and we need financing. And so what we would ask for is a collaborative, respectful approach that allows us to leverage our long-standing ties and allows us to preserve and sustain those economic and diplomatic ties for our mutual benefit. And by mutual benefit, I mean the benefit of the Caribbean, our countries involved, and of course the European Union, the UK, and the United States. There's another hand. In the chat it appears. So if there's another hand, is there? There are no other hands? Mr. Buford is back. So Mr. Buford of Antigua and Barbuda, you have the floor once again.
Thank you so much, Governor, and thank you so much, Chairman. In relation to the question that was raised by my colleague, Andre Huey, he mentioned one of the downside risks to the big push being, of course, the challenges that could emerge for the citizenship investment programs. And this could, of course, have significant consequences for Caribbean economies, of course, the five that operate the CBI programs. Another concern, Governor, is what you raised some time ago about population decline. You mentioned that this could be a significant concern for the region in terms of achieving its full potential on development and broadening its economic base. How much of a challenge is this, in your view? Was this discussed? And how is the bank looking to work along with other partners to address this issue?
Through you, Chairman, we did not specifically discuss population today, as far as I recall, but the population issue is a central issue in this discussion. As I indicated, I think at the launch of a strategic plan at the end of March, the reality is that our populations are stagnant and in some countries they are in decline. In fact, there are only two countries in the currency union as we economics. What is GDP? Consumption plus investment plus government expenditure plus trade. And therefore, we have that component of GDP, of economic activity, consumption, we need to boost that. For me, the simple biggest issue is skills. If you ask me, the number one thing, it's skills. We have to have more skilled people. As you know, for many, many years, we've lost some of our best minds in the diaspora, and we have to find a way to grow these economies, not just in terms of output, but also in terms of people. So that is definitely a discussion that you will continue to hear more about, because the labor issue, the population issue is a real thing. And I do want to say we need to have an informed discussion about it, because sometimes when we talk about population expansion, you know, people talk about people come in and take over, or they talk about more people coming to take rob us of what we have, rather than seeing it as increasing the pie. If you look at the United States, the largest economy in the world, immigration, people coming in, that has been a major driver for economic activity in the United States of America, and many other countries for that matter. So we do have to take a look at this labor issue, the population issue more seriously, because it is also part of how we grow these economies. So thank you for that question.
And Governor, if I may just ask two final follow-up questions. Well, two other questions. One is on the Office of the new office that you will have, the Office of Financial Conduct. that will. I was pleased to hear that you're starting up shortly. Will you look at the spreads that commercial banks are charging? Of course, that's between the interest rate that they charge on loans and the interest rate that they offer. Of course, this is a 2%, the minimum saving rate. Will you look at the spreads in relation to that to regulate that? How far will the central bank go into regulating that? And finally, on the matter of inflation targeting, the Monetary Council must be concerned, Governor and Chairman, that ECLAC said today that oil prices, the war in Iran, is going to have a significant impact on oil prices for Latin America and the Caribbean. So there's a real, of course, that's where the energy resilience and the energy sustainability comes in as well for this region. But in the short term, you must be concerned about the impact of inflation, which is already running at a level which is higher than I'm pretty sure that you would be comfortable with. How do you see this, and what can the region do in the short term to mitigate the impacts of the rising oil prices given the war in the Middle East?
Yes, you're very correct in the sense that we saw inflation going down, but as you correctly mentioned, of late we've seen that it's increasing, and that is definitely worrying for us, because with the increase in the inflation, as we see going up now, it will affect every prices of everything else. And obviously the cost of living is really tough on all the citizens within our currency union. So individual governments have taken specific actions to try to cushion the effect of inflation on its citizens. So whether it's in terms of zero rating of quite of the commonly purchased items at the supermarkets and the shops, whether it's in other social programs. So different countries are doing different things to cushion the effect. But it's something that concerns us, which is precisely why a significant and a major pillar of the big push is the energy security. Because as you rightly said, because of the crisis in the Middle East now, and then we see the oil prices going up, and obviously that's going to affect everything else. So here goes inflation as well going up. And that even gives us more reason for us to really focus on our big push and try to get some energy security so that we can actually buffer these issues when they come in the future. Governor, as regards to the other question.
Right, thank you, Chairman. So I think the Office of Financial Conduct, which is basically to ensure the fair treatment of customers of financial institutions, will look at a range of things, including pricing and possibly spreads. I do want to be careful around how I respond here, because we will have to evaluate that based on the particular business model of a particular financial institution. In other words, one size does not fit all. But obviously, for the same service or a similar service, there should not be a wide disparity in pricing. And if there is, that would be of concern to the Office of Financial Conduct. So for the same service, let's say, for example, we look at electronic funds transfer. One entity for the very same service can be charging $2 and another charging $20. That would concern us, because our mandate would include fair and competitive and transparent pricing. How do you explain charging $20 when another institution is charging $2? So unless there is some additional value, additional services that are being provided that can explain that disparity, that will have to be addressed. But you have to look at it on its merits, because each institution may be offering a different service. If it's differentiated, the cost may be different. But financial inclusion does require the affordable, accessible, transparent access to financial services, inclusive of payments, credit, insurance, financial advice. And we are going to be committed through that Office of Financial Conduct to make sure that all institutions, bank and non-bank, up their game in respect of how customers are treated. It will be very important for customers to understand their own rights and also to understand their responsibilities, because they do have responsibilities as well. So take, for example, the issue of cyber security. The banks and financial institutions have to do a certain amount to ensure that the systems are robust and that they give customers the appropriate tools, but the customers have to use those tools. So for example, strong passwords, dual factor authentication, those are standard things that are required. That is for us, the customers, to do. And therefore, as I said, there'll be some shared responsibility here. But certainly the Office of Financial Conduct would look into any egregious pricing and ensure that this pricing is appropriate, and also how people are treated. When they have problems, that they are addressed in a timely manner, that they are based on law, and the customers know their rights and are able to exercise those rights. And so there's a big public education campaign that will be launched, around that office to ensure that people are able to be better protected once we launch later this year.
And Governor, if I may just ask briefly in relation to the call by the central bank for banks to offer basic accounts. That call went out a little over a year ago. Has that what has been the response? Have the banks responded favorably in your estimation?
Through you, Chair, some banks better than others. I think at least 500 or close to 500 new accounts, first-step accounts, have been established across the currency union. Some banks have said the customers have not asked for it, and therefore they have not supplied it. Others have said there is no need in their particular case, but where there's a need, they will be willing to do it. So we are going to be following up that closely. I am not convinced that it's only 500 people who need first-step accounts. I think the demand is higher. So we have to make sure that the banks are following through on what we agreed on. I know many of them have, but I can't say all of them have, and we are going to be checking in on that. It has also been brought to our attention that while the first-step accounts are available in our banks, they are not available in the credit unions. And there are a number of persons who are, of course, using the credit unions, and so we need to have a discussion about how they can access it. Because remember what first-step account is, for those of you who don't know. Simplified due diligence. So instead of 2 pieces of ID, you now need 1. No minimum deposit amount. So whatever your amount is, that's the amount, and you get interest on top of that. And there are a couple of other features as well. So that was to make it easier for people to open accounts, including our youth. And by the way, with the big push, we need people to be able to do startups. We need our young people to do open businesses. We need students to have access. So for us, it is very important that these first-step accounts be used. So like I said, it's around 500 so far. I don't think that is I think there's more demand, but obviously we are going to be looking more closely at that to ensure that it is being implemented as intended. We did this collaboratively with the ECCB Bankers Association, and we will work with them and the working group, we meaning the ECCB, to ensure that we get the best impact from that particular policy. There was a reason why we did this, and there's a reason why we need to do this. It cannot be so hard to open a bank account in our region. So thanks for the question. I hope to be able to have another update on that at a future meeting perhaps, as we complete our review and we take steps to ensure more people are aware. Because I'm also finding out that for all the work we've done in the last 2 years, there's some people who are saying, well, I didn't know, and I have not been told, and my bank has not told me. So in some cases, maybe the bank is waiting for you to come and ask. So I would say if you have a need, ask. But we also feel that the bank has a responsibility to help persons in that regard. So it should be a two-way street. So we're going to be looking into that.
Thank you so much, Governor. Really appreciate it. And by the way, congratulations to yourself and Dr. McIntyre and the rest of the Monetary Council on the 50 years of the peg of the EC dollar to the US. And congratulations on the launch last evening of the new family of EC banknotes, honoring some of the most distinguished leaders and figures in our region, both dead and alive. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Chairman, if I may, through you, take the opportunity to thank Mr. Buford, who did an excellent job moderating our peg at 50 panel last Wednesday. It was a delightful experience. I cannot repeat his words. I do not have the eloquence that he has, but he said it was one of the best panels ever assembled. We certainly had fun, I would say that. And it seems to have been well received. We got a lot of positive feedback. So, Mr. Buford, I want to thank you for accepting the challenge, an invitation from the bank, Central Bank, to come to St. Kitts and Nevis to moderate that. You did an excellent job. It was fun, but also, more importantly, people learned, understood, and came to even better appreciate what this currency arrangement means for them and for families and our businesses and for investors. So thank you very much for that. Which leads me to say, on the launch of the notes last evening, another very historic occasion, and I want to thank the members of the Monetary Council who, of course, made the announcements. In my citations, I made 2 errors, and I want to correct the record at this time. They were inadvertent errors, but they must be corrected. So in the case of the $50 note, which of course is the Sir Robert Llewellyn Bradshaw, who is now going to be on the $50 note, I said he was a signatory to the ECCB agreement. That is not correct. The signatory to that agreement is Sir Kennedy Simmons. I know that. In fact, he's the only living signatory to the ECCB agreement. We have celebrated him on many occasions. He just turned 90 recently. So I want to make sure that record is clear, and I want to apologize to Sir Simmons and family and anyone else who may have been offended by my inadvertent error to make it clear. The record is very clear. Sir Kennedy Simmons signed the ECCB agreement on behalf of St. Kitts and Nevis. My second error was that I said, when it came to the $20, right at the end of my citation, I said that Sir Weber Sr. had signed. That is not correct. It was Sir Lester Bird. So I just want to make sure the record is clear, and if I offended anybody in the process, I do apologize. Not intentional, but we always want to make sure we are factual and the record is straight. It was a delightful occasion. I'm very pleased that we are now at this step where we have our own people paying on our notes. It's a coming of age, as it were, for our region, and I am very excited about that prospect and looking forward in due course to the notes coming into circulation to further, in a daily sense, honor those persons who have served us so well, on whose shoulders we stand, and who have given us wonderful examples to follow. So thank you for raising that and giving me the opportunity to clarify or correct the record.
Thank you, Governor, for the corrections, and thank you so much for your kind words. It was my absolute pleasure being in St. Kitts last week. Really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah. Chairman, thank you, Mr. Buford. I do not see any other offers, either in the room or on the Zoom, online, and therefore we can, I propose, conclude this media conference. So, Chairman, if you wish to offer any closing remarks, perhaps you can do so now.
Thank you, Governor. So in closing, I would just want to, I want to thank the Monetary Council, ECCB, for all their efforts. And we really look forward to a year of working together so that we can actually address the issues of our 650 people within our currency union. I think the ideal way to move forward would be for us to move forward with all energy, all our efforts, all our impetus towards having our big push become really the big push. And we've done well in the sense that we've been stable, our financial system has been stable, so now it's just a matter of moving from stability to our greater macro development, economic development. So these are exciting times. I got reprimanded recently when I said exciting times, and people tell me, Doc, this is a challenging and difficult times. But I still see it as exciting times. I think we're in a good position. If we can pull off our big push, we'll be in a much better position for all the citizens of our currency union. I thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. And let me thank you and the people of Dominica for so wonderfully hosting us for the last few days, and to thank you for your excellent chairmanship of our meeting today, and to extend the very best wishes to you during your tenure as chairman. I look forward to working with you closely for the benefit of Dominica and our currency union. So thank you again, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Governor.
That brings us to the end of our media conference. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks much. Have a good day. Thanks.